Good evening, welcome to the studio this evening. See if I can get this camera to sit somewhat like what I want it to sit. We're going to carry on this evening with this particular piece of chainmail, which is going to be a bracelet, and it's in a weave called dragon scale. So it's not going to get finished because I don't have enough rings to finish it. So we'll go until I run out of rings basically, and then it will sit and wait until I get some more. I have just noticed that one of these rings is very slightly out of position, so I am just going to give it a tweak. To make it sit right. There we go, that'll do. So one of the I'll leave that there so you can get an idea what it is that we're going to be carrying on with. And that little ring goes over there. But first, before I can carry on with that, I need to have blue rings, or these are purple actually, but they'll look blue to you. Closed, like these are. These are closed, these aren't. I know you can't actually, that's closed. And these aren't. You probably can't really see that, but you can see a couple of these that aren't actually closed. So I'm going to close these first. That saves me doing them whilst I'm actually trying to do the weave, which will speed up the weaving a little bit. So by doing this first, I save time. What I'm firstly just going to do though is unhook these, as quite a few of them have sort of hooked themselves together. Oops, there's it. So we'll do that as part of closing the rings. Closing these little ones isn't too much of a problem. Not a problem at all really. It just takes a little bit of time to do. Overall it's part of the time to make the piece, but I'm just doing it all up front rather than doing it as we go along. And then as soon as I've either done this or enough that I've got bored with closing rings, we'll do some of the weave. And if I've done all of these little blue ones, we'll carry on until we run out. If I haven't done all of them, we'll carry on until we run out of the ones that I've done, and then we'll close some more blue ones. They always manage to find a way to join themselves together when they're in their bag during transport. Don't know how they manage it, but they always seem to. Not, I can fairly easily undo them just by opening the rings and letting them drop out, but equally I can also just hold them in the right position and they will slip off each other as well. That's assuming I can actually get hold of them to hold them in the right position. A bit like, I don't know if you've ever seen nail puzzles. So I'm just I'm literally just studying that one ring. I can't tell. It looked like it hadn't been anodized correctly. The lighting in here isn't letting me tell, so I will just discard it. So generally speaking, this doesn't take a great deal of time. It's just somewhat repetitive whilst you're watching, but so whilst you are watching and whilst I am just closing rings, what you're looking at is rings which are made from aluminium or aluminum if you're in America, and then they've been anodized, which is a process of using various chemicals to dye the ring itself in these, well, in this particular case, purple colour, although you'll be seeing it as blue. And generally speaking, sort of available, or from the places where I tend to buy rings are available, are about 15-16 different colours. So they're quite a varied range of colour. Let's see if I can remember some of them, but basically you've got reds, greens, black, yellow, silver, white, sky blue, royal blue, lavender, purple, gold, champagne, black ice, which is somewhat like gunmetal, deep rose, which is the pinky colour I've got here, mint green, or seafoam as it's called. So a fair range of things, or a fair range of colours, so you can get some really pretty weaves made using all sorts of mixes of colours. And rings also come in various sizes. These in particular are 0.81 millimeter diameter wire, so that's quite small, 20 gauge. But off the top of my head I don't know if that's American wire gauge or UK standard wire gauge. So I don't actually recall which it is, but they go then all the way up to at least ½ an inch in diameter, with fairly chunky wire, 1.2, 1.5 millimeter diameter wire. And they can be used to make all sorts of things: necklaces, bracelets, anklets, earrings, in terms of jewellery anyway, and a lot of other things that don't actually necessarily have to be entirely jewellery, or the entire jewellery piece. It can be mixed with other things as well to produce some really nice pieces. I don't work with rings making armour or anything like that, so I just do jewellery. But there are people that do work with stainless steel or metal, other iron type rings to create armour. I do occasionally work with other rings like titanium, which are quite hard to work because titanium is quite a strong metal. but they have some nice sort of softer colours available. They look a little like dusty colours, so they're quite pretty to work with. You are coming apart rings, even if you have to open you to do it. And there are stretchy rings available. Some weaves can incorporate stretchy rings, which is really nice for bracelets, because it means you don't need a clasp. Okay, I've really got these all separated from one another, and then once they are, it won't take that long to close them up, and then we can complete, well, do some more of the weave. As I mentioned, I won't complete it because there aren't enough rings here to do a bracelet of this width in this weave. Is something like, well, in the order of sort of 400 rings at least, judging by the fact that there's something like about 150 here, and this is just over 2 inches long. So a bracelet would be about 7.5 inches. So if that's 2, multiply it obviously by 3 and a bit, and 3 and a bit times 150 is 450, 500. And given that we spent something like about 5 hours, I think, or 4 hours, I'm not quite sure now, doing this, it takes a fair length of time to construct a bracelet using this particular weave. It does look rather spectacular though, somewhat of a statement piece. I'm starting to feel a bit like a QVC a shopping channel presenter if I start going on about jewellery like that. I'll have to put the L up on the screen, the usual shopping channel L. But okay, got about half of them closed. Speeds the process a bit later on though, as you'll see very soon. All the deep rose or dark rose. Is it dark rose or deep rose? Dark rose rings here. They have to, well, not them, but the ones in the box have to be opened. They're already opened. They were done the other night, so they're all ready to go. It's just these blue ones that need preparing. It's a bit like cooking a meal. If you prepare all your ingredients first, it's a lot easier to do the cooking and a lot quicker. So all this is a process is just twisting the rings slightly to close the gap, and then squeezing the two ends together a little bit as well, because there is a little tiny gap where a very, very, very fine saw is actually used to separate the rings from the coil that they were formed in, and that leaves a very, very tiny gap, which, to get the best look of the ring, you close up, you squeeze it, squeeze the two ends together, and twist them so that the two ends line up, and then quite often you can't even see where the end was, and because of the fact that the saws are so fine and they are high precision saws, both ends of the ring are very cleanly cut and well, almost parallel to each other, so they close up almost invisibly. Okay, not far to go. Now this dragon back weave is a relatively speaking easy weave in its design, and once you've got so far into it, it's an easy weave to carry on with. It's a little bit awkward to start. Essentially the first 3 rows, the first 3 rows are the easiest to get confused on, not do right, basically just mess up and lose your position. Once you get the first 3 rows done though, however, it then holds the characteristic shape that and pattern that you're looking at now, and then it becomes easy from there on. A lot of chainmail weaves are the same. They take a little bit to get started in terms of holding their position. It's what gets called stable. So they're not stable for a few rings, the few being different depending on what weave you're doing. But once you've got past those first few and it becomes stable, stable means it holds its position and shape, as I mentioned. Then they generally just sort of repeat the same thing again and keep going. But the trick is usually getting that first stable length. Now some weaves, Byzantine in particular, or just simple 2-in-1, 4-in-1 type chains, or 4-in-2. I mean, the chains themselves, 4-in-2, 2-in-1, are stable as soon as you put 2 links together, and you can't get lost with it. They are the very simplest of chains, but they can be very effective, and lots of variations you can do even with an extremely simple chain, which make them highly personalizable. But then you move, the next set of weaves would perhaps be something like a box chain or a Byzantine chain. They are essentially stable after the first 6 rings, so they are generally quite easy to work with. Where's that ring over there? Just these are the pink rings, and then you get things like the half Persian, or the variations of half Persian, which generally take about 8 to 10 rings to become stable. And then there's things like this. This takes 3 rows, and that 3 rows depends on just how wide you want it. So this one is 5 rings wide, so 3 rows, so 15 rings in this, or 30 rings, 15 pairs in this case. If I'd done it 3 rings wide, it would be 9, so I think this one kind of varies. But once you've got that, you can see it's holding its position, it doesn't fall apart. I know exactly where every ring goes next ish, sort of, kind of like. I do keep getting confused, just forgetting. And with this, every alternate row is the same, and so it's actually not really difficult to get a handle on, but I do sometimes forget. So I'll look at it and go, just where does that ring go, and do I need to put a blue one on first? So sometimes I'll study it for a while, but as I say, there's only every alternate row is the same, so there's only two row patterns, and once you've got those 2 row patterns, it becomes easy. And that sits in there. Right, now it's just a case of these rings being a little bit awkward, but just a case of just threading these big pink rings, or deep rows as they're called, through the relevant blue rings, and then closing them up. So kind of as you're doing this, what you sort of, if I can get hold of this a bit better, what you're sort of doing with this is you have me just checking that I'm doing, yeah, I am doing it right. You pick up the 2 rings that are already there, that holds this particular ring. You then kind of go around the next pair, so you just bypass them, pick up 1 from that area there, and then we add another ring in which becomes part of the next row. So that ring I've just put in is what holds the next row in place, or the next but 1 row, I suppose, because we're working in alternate rows. And having put that one in, we again just basically do the same thing again. We pick up the one we've just put in, ready for the next row, pick up the one that holds this particular row in place, that's the back one, skip the next 2, pick up the one from here that holds this row in place, make sure that ring's where it should be, which is over there, and then put a blue one in which is there to hold, essentially to hold the next row in place. And that sort of sits inside, so it's a bit like that row behind us sort of bypass this one as well. It just sits there for the moment, nothing really holding it in place until the next ring picks it up. It's quite often the key with this is to get hold of the rings in the at the right angle to work with. You develop your own style as to how to do this. I mean, I'm now going to start twisting my wrist backwards. What I should really do is just get hold of the ring around there. It's quite hard to do when it's on the desk, and then I don't have to be such a contortionist. I can just feed that through. And we close this pink ring up. Now this one at the moment sits on the end with nothing to hold it in place, but when the next one goes over the top of it, like they have done all the way down here, you can see that they kind of hold each other in place. Right, so that's one row. The next row is kind of, well, it is the same thing, it's just offset slightly. So we just did one with 5 rings on a row. This next one will be 4, it will sit there, but I need a blue ring first in order to be ready to hold the next row in place. So I'll just feed that in. You kind of need 3 hands sometimes for this. And then we pick up the blue ring, and that blue ring there, and put the next one in place for the next row. So make sure it sits in between the ring, and if it sticks out it won't do its job properly and it will look wrong. Close the pink ring and move on. So we pick up both rings, go around as I did before on the row before, and pick up the one and then put the next ring in place to hold the next row. And it's just now, it's just, you know, other than the start of the ring at the start of the row where you have to remember whether to offset it or not, it's just doing the same thing, you know, time after time. And if you're thinking, does that get boring? No, not really. Well, not actually, not really, which implies that it might. I suppose if I'd been doing this all day for about 8 hours, I might get bored with it, but I'm not. You know, it's, whilst I'm doing the same thing, each ring has a slightly different challenge. You get like that one where one ring wants to flip over, get in the way. It keeps it, or you drop rings like that. It keeps it a little bit interesting. And so, you know, it's not a boring exercise really. If you enjoy doing something, you know, then it's rarely boring, shall we say. Occasionally you do need a bit of patience with it, like if you just drop a ring as you saw me do a moment ago. Then if you keep doing that, then that's when you start to need a little bit of patience. You know, dropping one ring is not about that one getting in the way, for example. It does sometimes need a little bit of patience to just go, you know what, let it go. So it kind of, you know, winds you up a little bit sometimes, but it is literally that happens when things aren't going right. When they're going right, you don't need patience. Stamina maybe, but not patience. You know, as I said, there's a heck of a lot of rings involved in this when it's finished. Something like in the order of 500. So, you know, to have done that takes a fair bit of time. I just pick up one there, and add a blue ring to it. And I can see a gap between those, so I'll just close it a bit, squeeze them together, and then when I align them again, the fact that I squeezed it together is pushing them together, and the little gap that was there sort of vanishes. I can't quite get that. Now I can see it, but there's a little, the join is where that little tiny white dot is, but it's almost invisible. And then so if you're not a regular watching the stream, then you've probably, well, you almost certainly, you've only seen me doing the jewellery making here. It's not something I do well, it is something I do a lot of, but it's not something I do a lot of. I do 5 other crafts on stream at the same time. Well, at the same time, one after another. So it's like 5 streams, 5 different streams combined into one almost. This is jewellery making. After this jewellery making session, which will probably be on Monday when I think I'll continue doing this over the weekend, but then maybe switch on Monday's stream to something else, and that will either be pyrography or wood carving. I'm not sure which one. It will partly be dependent upon how much time I've had to think of a subject that I want to portray in either of those 2 art forms, as to whether we do wood carving or whether we do pyrography. If you're not familiar with what pyrography is an art form which is creating images using heat, generally from an electrically heated tool in my case. So we take a plain sheet of wood, electrically heated tool, and we create a monochrome image. That's not just black and white, that's a fully sort of shaded image. So it's not quite like a photograph, but it's a photographic style, which means it sort of has that same sort of idea behind it that a photograph has. It's not just a black and white drawing, it's a fully it's a bit like a black and white photograph, but one that's got lower resolution, shall we say, than a photograph. But we do have so the other craft that might do is wood carving. Wood carving, we do a type of wood carving called relief carving. So it's not well, I was about to say it's not full 3D carving. I might do 3D carving, I don't know yet. That has to be determined, depends on the subject. And I've only ever done one, well, not done, I've only ever worked on one I'm now studying this, trying to work out how that goes. That just goes through there like that and that, yeah. I told you, there's only 2 different ways of doing this, and I sometimes have to study it. So I may do a full sculpture piece this time. I've only ever started one before, never finished it, so I might try that. But normally I'll do relief carving, which is kind of halfway. Smirnov Adara. That took me a bit to say. Thank you for following the studio, that is most kind of you. I do appreciate you doing that, thank you very much. So I was saying that relief carving isn't quite full 3D. It's kind of like you leave half of it uncarved, so you leave a back sheet. It's a bit like taking an object and sticking it into a picture frame. So half of it sort of is fastened to the picture frame. So that's normally the sort of carving I do. But I may well, as I say, might try a 3D piece this time if I can find or think of a suitable subject that I think I can do. Bearing in mind it would be only the second time I've started a full 3D carve. I may take the easy way out. Or at least, if I do that, think of a subject which is easy for me to do as a beginner in that particular style. But so it'll either, as I say, it'll either be carving or pyrography, and whichever one it isn't, that would be the one that we do once we finish the piece that we do start. So generally it'll spend about 2 weeks carving or 2 weeks doing pyrography, or if it takes a bit longer, it takes a bit longer. And then after that, the next art form, because I do 5 in total, would be scraper board. Scraper board, if it's something that you're not familiar with, the medium itself is a board which has been coated with china clay, which is white, and then coated in Indian ink, which is quite a thick black ink, and then you form the image by scraping that ink away from the surface using various sharp tools. And depending on how you do that, you actually form another monochrome image. Getting the idea I like monochrome here, because I actually do. I do like monochrome work. There's more of a, well, there is a challenge to it. I won't say more of a challenge than colour, because colour itself has its own challenges, but monochrome is an interesting challenge, which and I like that art form. And then after that, the final, or the fifth craft or art form is punchcraft. Punchcraft is just pick that up. Okay, punchcraft. You see, I'm still having to work out exactly what that goes there, and I've just put that through. That's right. Punchcraft is a way in which you take a large needle which has got thread associated with it, punching it through the backing material to create loops in a very similar way to which sort of rugs are made. So it's kind of a miniature rug making, and depending on the colour of the thread that we punch through the backing, we can create some images. They're not a fantastically high resolution image, but they are what's the word I'm looking for? They look good anyway, let's put it that way. Obviously part of the skill is picking an image that does look good. If you can't use a very high resolution, it's kind of the equivalent of around about sort of 50 pixels per inch. So it doesn't sound a lot, but you can get quite a lot of detail in that sort of resolution. You just can't get super fine detail in it. Fluffy Twiglet, good evening, welcome to the studio this evening. It's alright, it's a Friday night. Why would anybody be early on a Friday night? I'm clipping my mic again, aren't I? I'm sitting a bit closer to it, and it's and my voice is getting a bit better, I guess, and I'm not quite as quiet as I was. Let's just tweak it a little bit so it's hot but not that hot. There we go, something about there, we'll see. I can turn it up a little bit if it's a bit too quiet, but it seems like it clips and pops if I'm not careful. So how have you been today, Fluffy Twiglet? How did the stream go last night, by the way? Why does that look like there's a ring missing? Probably because it looks like there's a ring missing. I'm gonna need to study this. I have managed to miss putting a ring in that space there. So what I could do is take it apart to put that in, but I think I can possibly manage to get one in without it. And this is where we find out if I'm right. So I open the blue ring, and now I've got to sort of do a little bit of almost minor surgery. I've got to get this in the right place. With all the other rings in the way. I'm assuming the scrapbook is for the university, for college, so it can't be that hard to get motivation, given that your desire to want to go back to school. Yeah, no. Now you see, this is why it's a lot easier to do this at the right time instead of doing it at the wrong time, which is now. So I've got to get a ring through only that pink ring and only that pink ring without picking any others up. By picking I mean threading through another ring. Is that right? That looks right. It's just come out. Now that's the frustrating bit, when it comes out like, you've just got it in place and then you let go accidentally and it goes into the wrong place. Now then, what I'm going to do is I'm going to close it and then we'll have a look and see. No, it's not. It's not right because it was in the, there we go. I think that's right now. Now I've only just got enough space here to do this, and I can only just get hold of the ring with the pliers. There we go. Now then, have I done that right? No, I haven't. I haven't done it right. It's not sitting right here. It's sitting there. It's not supposed to sit there. Now that might just be that that's it. I just need it to push it into the right place. That is really the hardest part about doing any art stuff, whether it's what you're doing there, is just getting that inspiration. That you go, yeah, I want to do that, whatever it is, and I can see that image in my mind, and then you go from there and you're off. But it's a problem I get is either I can't see the image that I'm after, even if I'm using reference images. Sometimes I just can't get it. I've had that with some of the stuff that I've been doing. I think I had that a little bit carving Ruth the dragon. I couldn't quite see the image in my mind, even though I'd got sort of reference images in front of me that I was being, trying to work fairly closely with. But sometimes I can see fantastic images in my mind, but I just can't get them down on paper, and that's frustrating. So we did fix that. It's got to you see, you got to remember to put these rings in. Luckily it sort of showed up showed up immediately, and I was able just had enough room to fix it without having to take a large proportion of the bracelet apart and redo it, which would have not been the best. Well, it'd have been the only idea, but I wouldn't have been too pleased about it, because the time it takes to make this particular weave. We got a pussycat. Nope. Doesn't. There's something moving around somewhere and on some papers. That's not closed properly. I can see through it. Oh, you guys probably can't, but I've got my right glasses on, and I can see the table through the gap. So all I need to do is just bend it to one side, squash the two ends together, so now they are together. You know, they actually walk past each other. So what I do now is just hold it back on it's like a spring now. So hold it back so that they'll go past each other, and then let go, and then the spring squashes the two ends together. Or the spring-like effect squashes the two ends together. There, so I want the blue ring first. Can I pick? Oh, I did. I must get some whatever material to go on the desk while I'm doing this, and before I close that I need to put a blue ring on, so that I can do things like that. I can hold like the big ring in my in the pliers and just pick up one of the little rings just by manipulating it. I can't actually remember what the material's called. I keep calling it baize. It's a material that make pool table tops or snooker table tops with, that sort of material. That way, you know, that doesn't catch the rings. Felt, which you might think would be a good substitute, isn't, because it felt is just matted fibres, and it catches the edges of the rings, and then you start dragging the felt, or you know, you lift a ring and you tip everything off because it's caught on the, and yeah, no thank you. Well, whilst I'm doing this, it's getting temperatures here. 24.2. I was about to say it's getting warm in the studio. It's probably getting more humid. It's 24.2. Well, isn't warm, isn't cold rather, but it feels a lot hotter than that over here in Yorkshire, UK, if you weren't aware of that. And I have no idea where the ring that was in my hand just went, but never mind. And whilst I've got an air conditioner running here, it's because I've got the door open, it's trying to dehumidify the rest of the house, which of course ain't gonna work, but it's cooling a little bit. Why are we going to be doing some more pyrography? Because I've been doing, well, I don't know, we'll be doing that next, it might be the carving, but I've been doing this for about 2 weeks. Well, the jewellery for about 2 weeks, so I kind of figured it was about time to move on to something else. Won't be well next week, probably Monday. That may change if I don't come up with something to do between now and then. I'm not going to start something just for the sake of it. So I do need to find something that gives me inspiration enough to want to either carve it or to do it in pyrography. Not quite sure how long to do anything. I mean, the others are kind of naturally, you know, you do one piece, whatever that piece is, and then you move on to the next craft, and all the others I can do that with because they take, you know, generally, well, I know I did one pyrography piece in 2 hours in one stream, but generally speaking, you know, they take a couple of weeks, so you can do that and then move on to another one. But with jewellery, of course, I can I could, depending on the chain that I'm doing, I could finish a jewellery item in an hour if it was just something like a Byzantine chain. So it, you know, it's for jewellery making. It's kind of, rather than by the piece, it's more pick a time interval. Leatherhorn, good evening. Welcome to the studio this evening. Yep, this is the dragon scale from yesterday. Right or not? Yes, I have. Yeah, this is ultimately going to be a bracelet, so it wants to end up being 7.5 inches long. It's not going to do that because I don't have enough rings to be able to finish it, and I will have to order several hundred of them to do so, which will take a few days to come in. So I'm just doing this while we have them. Yeah, I'll just put this ring on. I'll give you a better view because you only see it hanging down. So there it is so far. So we're not quite halfway done. As you can see, it's just about goes over the top of my wrist. Well, I'm about 8.5 inches, so so I don't actually know how long this is at the moment. I have a ruler, so I shall measure it. We give or take a bit. We're at 3 inches. So we're almost, well, 7, it must be 7 inches. So 3.5 will be halfway. So we're not quite halfway, but almost. And I haven't quite decided how to put a clasp onto it yet. This sort of clasp with this kind of won't work on here. Well, partly because it's too short, but well, it might. I'm going to say this works because it's flexible. So when it's round your wrist, you can misalign the ends if you like to close it. Whereas I don't think this will. It might. It probably would just allow you enough to misalign it, but it kind of wants to be a little bit closer fit. So what I'll probably do with it is bring the width down, maybe to a couple of, or 3 rings in the middle, maybe across, possibly even all the way down to a single ring in the middle with a clasp on it. So and the same on the other side. So when we get to about 7 inches, clasp is generally about ½ inch long, so when we get close to 7 inches I probably want to start and bring the end down. But as I say, that won't be for a little while, as I've got to order more rings. And actually hope the next batch colour is fairly close to this. I kind of, if I'd have thought about it I'd have realised, but I didn't. So with making something like this, well, I suppose this was what this was intended to. With something like this, I'd have started with just 3 or 4 rows, measure how long it was, and therefore made an estimate of how many rings I needed, and then obviously order a little bit extra, and order enough to complete a whole bracelet. Because as when you buy these rings, every batch it's a die process, so there are variations in the strength of the die that's used, just exactly how long it's in there, no matter how tightly controlled they are. Just the metal itself can mean that there are variations in the colour. And so generally speaking, if you want a complete bracelet, which generally you want to be all like this, wants to be all one colour, then it's a good idea to buy all the rings at the same time, essentially from the same batch, so that they are all the same colour. Otherwise the slight variations can show up. Now it might not be a significant problem, even if they are if they vary slightly, you possibly won't notice it. If they vary quite a bit, and they can sometimes, then it is noticeable, but you can incorporate that into the design. So let me be ridiculous and say I want it to go to green rings next, which I could quite easily do, given the fact I've got a box full. I could put green on that end and green on this end, so you've got a pink panel in the middle, or dark rose in the middle, green on the other side. It becomes part of the design. So I mean, that's I'm going ridiculous saying green there, but a slightly different dark rose colour, you just do the same thing and it becomes like a panel, and therefore it doesn't look as out of place. It's one of those sort of tricks. I'd say tricks of the trade, but I'm not kind of in the trade at the moment, and I didn't learn it from the trade. I actually learned that from the punchcraft, when I had run out of sky colour. And the new sky colour that came in was very, very slightly different, so I had to do all sorts of little techniques to sort of hide the join. So things like let's say I ran out of rings now and I got some more, and the next one wasn't quite the same shade. What I'd do is take these 4 that I've just put in off, and then do a complete row with the new colour. That way the whole row would be the same colour, and it would be a sort of a straight line, and you wouldn't notice one just stood on the end that was a slightly different colour. That would stand out. So that's going to go through there. So I want a. Can I do? Oh, I did it. I sent it spinning all over the place, but I did it. I actually managed to pick up a blue ring with a pink ring. One of those little, you sometimes set yourself little challenges, you know, like doing that. It serves no real purpose. In theory, it's a little bit faster if you can do that than actually stopping and picking it up by some other means, but there's not a lot of difference. I'd save more time if I could manage to pick these pink rings up in a way that I could just use them without having to reposition them. Yeah, it is. I'm guessing it's either when I'm leaning forward. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna try and keep leaning back a bit. Okay, I'm turning down the mic gain a little bit. Well, I don't know if it's me somehow. The mic is reaching. The mic gain is in OBS is reaching its peak value, and what that would do is create a pop because some of the sound information effectively goes missing. It can't encode it because it's above its maximum level, and that's probably the crackling that you're hearing. So I've just turned it down a little bit, but it may actually make the sound seem a little bit quiet. So and my background noise is not too bad. Hopefully you're not getting too much background noise either. Let me know how that goes anyway, and see if you're still getting the crackling fluffy twiglet. I was aware of that yesterday. It was running hot and clipping, so it's a trade-off. I know when I've sort of listened to my own recordings back, if I listen to the local recording, I sound really quiet. If I listen to the same recording on Twitch, it sort of is medium, and it's my mic volume doesn't compare with some of the other people that I'm listening to, so it's kind of odd. I have to turn up to hear my own, and turn down when I'm listening to other people's. So I don't quite know how OBS is processing it. I have had a couple of people tell me that my microphone is quiet, so it's a bit not quite sure which is the right answer. Actually, I guess what I should do is turn the microphone gain down, but turn the gain up in OBS. That might be enough to do it. It's playing about with the background noise levels. That's the problem. Even without the air conditioner running in the background, there's just general noise, sort of computer noises getting into the signal path. If I'm going through, just want that. Okay, Leatherhunt, have a good day. I would say sorry you've got to work, but I don't mean I wish you were out of a job. You know, kind of wish you had all the money you liked, but you didn't have to work. Have a good day. I look forward to seeing you again in the future. Okay. If I lean 1, 2, let me just do the usual 1, 2, 3. Pa, pa. The explosives like the P and the B are the ones where you usually peak. Otherwise, have I got... If you're wearing headphones for the moment, guys, you might want to just take them off. I'm just going to switch this mic off and on again, just in case we've got a bad switch here. 3, 2, 1. I think the mic leads in. Yep, that's in properly. And that one's in properly. Let's see how that goes for a little bit, Fluffy Twiggler. I'm not quite sure where the crackling would otherwise be coming from. It would only, I guess, be OBS that isn't able to keep up, but it should be, because my machine's not doing anything else at all other than broadcasting. And given it's an i7, it should manage that. And Twitch should be able to, well, Twitch should be able to handle the bandwidth. Oh, yeah. Not dropping any frames either, so not that. I may have to listen to my own recording back. Ooh. And have a listen. So hopefully Santa will be streaming again, Fluffy Twiddler. Ah, good. Glad it's behaving itself. Maybe the mic switch has not been touched for several weeks, so it's just possible it was a little bit dirty. Yeah, which side was I working on? I have absolutely no idea. It doesn't actually matter. Probably that one. Yes, hopefully, yeah. Oh, well, yeah, I don't expect somebody to stream whilst they're at work, you know. But I gather she obviously was enjoying it, so we'll try again. Hopefully you didn't get any idiots. No, I'm doing that wrong because that wants to pick up that one first. and then that one there. And I forgot to put a blue ring on that. Oh God! You mean you actually got a good a troll that was good at what they were doing? Oh, blimey! I didn't know such existed these days. Oh well, I'm glad he didn't put her off. That's the main thing. Now these rings are going down. We're going to run out of them soon. One of the things I do want to try this weekend, I think, is making a ring out of rings. If that doesn't sound a bit like Inception-like. Again, just to see if I can do it. A finger ring, that is. You know, make a finger ring. Well, maybe to go around one of my fingers. I think that might be an interesting challenge, especially since it'll be working small again. And I know the difficult bit about that is going to be joining the two ends together. Just thinking then, you're kind of looking down on me a little bit there. Is the view okay? Well, do you think it would benefit from a slightly different view? Maybe more sort of facing the side of it, perhaps? I wonder what I'm going to run out of first, pink or well, I'm not actually going to run out of purple first because I've got another bag of them, so look at that. That's just from the box. They've formed themselves into a knot. Easily undone knot, but ringception, yeah. What I may do, I might do just for the fun of it, is make it out of bright orange. then the image that Fear Reaper did for me of a Lord of the Rings style ring with Tarragon art in glowing letters on it, that was kind of an orangey looking ring. So that sort of orange, so I might, just for the fun of it, see if I can make a ring, not necessarily out of these rings but out of that colour. Yeah, I think the jewellery probably does benefit. It's sort of just a little bit. Let's bring this down. I mean, you'll get sort of a slightly blue screen background, but off of me. But so what I'm now going to need to do probably is work out where to do it like that, and then focus the camera again. The camera's on a snake, so whilst I've got quite a bit of flexibility in moving it, I can't actually I've got flexibility in moving it, but a limited actual sort of range of movement. Okay, so see how that goes, see if that looks okay. Of course, now I've got to learn to keep my hands in this frame. Before I do that, what I should actually do is finish the row I was working on. That would possibly help a little. Actually, I'll say help a little bit. I actually don't actually have to finish the row I was working on. There is literally nothing to stop me sort of working, you know, on a diagonal edge. In fact, one of the things I considered for doing a bracelet like this, maybe for another time, was there. Instead of doing it, instead of doing the bracelet this way, so the dragon scale goes. Now I've got to get used to where the camera is. Instead of doing it this bracelet this way, if you like, so the dragon scale goes that way. One of the ways I was thinking of doing it, of trying it maybe another time, is do it so that, so if you imagine the dragon scale was still going that way, so I make it very wide rather than very long. I can't quite get used to that camera just yet. Yeah, so instead of it being sort of 2 inches wide, the camera's upside down. That's what's confusing me a little bit. Let me just flip the camera, which I will do on a global source, which is that one, properties, and vertical flip. There we go. I'll stand a better chance now. Yeah, making it, you know, if this is wide, if you like, actually make it 7.5 inches wide, and only sort of you know, an inch or so deep. Because it's not too difficult to just sort of build off the ends of these if I need it to, perhaps. But that was just something to maybe I'll think about for another one, just to apply a little bit of variation. Okay, you go back in there. Right. Nope, I've not picked that up properly. I need to go through that one because that holds this layer, and then that one holds that end of this layer, and then place the blue ring on it to hold the next layer in place. There we go. Okay. No, well, I can't actually move the camera further away from me. I can zoom out a little bit actually, which will have that same effect. No, it was the obvious. Well, having moved the camera, I've got to get used to where the frame is again, so that I keep my hands in frame. So, you know, if it's a better shot, then great. It was mainly the fact it was flipped upside down. So when I moved up, the image that you saw and I was looking at went down. So, you know, that's up, and you now see that go up. But of course, a minute ago, I was going up, and it was doing that on my screen. And when you look at a screen when it's reversed like that, to your normal perceptions, it can be really hard to overcome them and align yourself. If you've ever, well, if you ever get the chance, if you're used to using a mirror, for example, where you move left, you see something in the mirror move towards your left. If you do that with a television camera and a television screen, it moves the other way. And if you then flip it upside down, most people cannot do something as simple as touch the nose by looking at a screen when it's upside down and back to front. They just can't line it up, and yet if you close your eyes you can do it first time without a problem, but look at a screen and you just can't. Or the other one is line two fingers together. It's really funny watching people try, and that's what I was trying a minute ago, which is why it was a bit confusing for me. But if this is giving you so much of a better view, that's the place to keep the camera. Fear Reaper 7, good evening. Yeah, the shiny is shiny. It's really shiny is the shiny. It's getting quite a long shiny as well. Now with it being so low down, I kind of have to hold it at, and point it at you, but it takes a bit of getting used to, that's all. Mexican wave. Right, I have no idea which end I was working at. This one is as good as any. Now then, I want, since this one has the ring on, okay. So how are you doing, Fear Reaper? It's quite amusing that you just pop in the stream just now, since I was mentioning your name not so long ago in conjunction with the next piece of jewellery that I might have a go at making. Because I was thinking maybe of using a colour like that, which you may recognise. Yeah, so I was thinking about doing a little bit of ringception and making a ring out of rings, just to see if I could, well, just to see if I could do it mainly. I'm sure I could do it, but you know, it's a bit of a, potentially a bit of a fiddly thing to do. Make a ring. And I figured maybe I'll do it in that bright orange as a yeah, in what's the word I'm looking for, sort of in honour of yourself and your picture. Oh, that's a pity, because usually on a Friday night there's not too many people that I watch. Actually, that may change. I was going to say, during the week, if I'm not doing something else, I'll watch so Monday, Tuesday and Thursday I watch a streamer called Matt Pendleton. You've probably heard me mention him before. A train simulator. But I don't watch him on a Friday because he does Microsoft Flight Simulator with people from, you know, that watch his stream. It's a sort of a multiplayer game, and I kind of find it a bit too noisy, and you don't quite know what's going on, and you know, the people that play it seem to enjoy it, and I'm sure other people enjoy watching it, but I just find it a bit too confusing. So I don't watch it. So I was kind of hoping Santa might stream tonight, and then I'd get to watch. But I think Matt actually says she's not. I think actually Matt has gone back to doing Train Simulator tonight, so I'll end up watching him again. Right. I've got 3 rings left after this, which is really amazing. Well, I was about to say it's really amazing, because there is 3 rings left to finish this row. Now that's pure coincidence, I think, because I'm fairly sure I had 100 rings, but maybe I've only got 99, because there's every two rows is 9 rings. So to have an exact number, with 9 rings over 2 rows, meant I've either been shortchanged by 1 ring twice, yeah, because I've got almost 200 rings, or I've lost 2, which is a possibility. Either's a possibility. When you buy these, although you buy them like 100, 200, 500, I'm fairly convinced they actually measure them, count them by weight. So occasionally you can get, you know, 1 missing and things like that. So occasionally you get more than you expected. So bit of swings and roundabouts. One more ring and then we're out of these dark rows. I am liking the colour. It's a new colour to the supplier. So, and I've put that on without putting a blue ring on it. No, I don't think so. He's not been around. I've not seen him. I'm not sure if he streamed on Monday, but I don't think I've seen him all week. And Santa's started streaming for the very first time last night, doing some fantasy art, a fantasy portrait, which looked really good. Unfortunately, I didn't have much time to see much of it last night, but I did drop in, and was doing really well with it. The portrait looked a bit sad though. I don't know if that was intentional, Fluffy Twiglet, but looking, when I saw the full face of the portrait, it looked really sad. So there we go, a length of dragon scale, which is not quite halfway done. I'll take a look in a moment. I'm just holding that in place. So that's kind of what it would look like on me, although it's not intended for me. Got two hairy arms for that. Actually, talking of hairy arms, these rings don't catch, by the way. So I have had, for testing purposes, shall we say, I've had things like the expandable bracelets on, and one or two others, and they don't catch my arms. So I know ladies don't have hairy arms like this, but fellas do. And if you get something that catches the hairs, it gets annoying. But there we go. So let's see how long this is. So we are at almost 3.5, yeah, give or take a bit. Couple of 16ths maybe, short of 3.5 inches. So it's almost exactly, well, no, 3/7 inch. Yeah, it's almost exactly half done. I'll turn that around and measure centimeters for the more enlightened people, shall we say. So centimeters wise, 9 centimeters, almost to the millimeter. I'm holding that like that, and you guys can't see the ruler, and I can't hold it that way. It's upside down now. The ruler's upside down now. So 9 centimeters ish. Yeah, it's so like that. And I kind of I love playing with this stuff. It doesn't feel it's not cold. It's cooler than my body temperature, shall we say, but not by much. So it's sort of a warm metal, and I love the sort of the flexibility of it, and just the way it they move. And this one fascinates me because you can squeeze it up a little bit, and then it's like a concertina. And I kind of find this one I'm fighting with, as you can see there, you've got the underlying blue as well. Well, purple, but blue in your case. And it's sort of, when it shows through like that, it's because you're looking at it slightly side on, you're seeing the underlying blue underneath the red, and I think that's a really nice effect. The blue isn't quite as prominent here when you're looking at it here, because I can see through it more than you can, but because I'm looking down on it. So I sort of see that sort of effect. It doesn't, the blue isn't quite as prominent until you do that. Anyway, so what I might do, I don't know, where have I got, there we go. What I do have here, and sorry about that camera being knocked over, maybe I ought to get some blue tack or something. I've got some titanium rings here, small titanium rings, which is what I made some little test lengths out of. A little test length like that. That's half Persian weave. Now these are kind of the titanium rings. They're anodized as well, but they're kind of matte colour as opposed to being a shiny colour. And when you look at the colours, they kind of look. I'd describe it as dusty. They're not dusty, but it's sort of that sort of look, as you can probably see. Here's another version of a different half Persian. So they're now I could make a bracelet out of these, but what I might do is, if these rings are the right size to do it with, I might see if I can make a ring out of these titanium rings. Yes, you did. Rather a long link, but you got a link through. I'll have a look at it. Let's have a look at it now. Yeah, it looks really sad. That's what I was saying. It needs I think it needs a bit of arms or something. The shoulders are too wide for the body's too narrow for the shoulders. It might, being a fantasy character, it might not have arms, I guess. So maybe that's why she looks so sad. But the triangular torso looks a little bit odd at the moment. But there again, it's fantasy character. Maybe that's what was intended to make it look a bit odd. But a really sad looking face. I like the background as well. I cannot do backgrounds like that. I'd love to be able to do backgrounds like that. But I've not been very successful at them yet. That's something I'll have to practice, or maybe I'll have to come on and see how Santa did it, if she'll show me one of these days. Right, so yeah, so I may do a ring out of these titanium rings, just to see how to do it, really, more than anything. It'd probably be chunkier than this. I mean, there's no reason why you can't take a chain like this and just join the ends together if you can work out how to do it, and make a ring. But I think there are some ring designs where it sort of stands like that, if that sort of makes sense. It stands up, the rings sort of stand up like that and go around. And as you can see, I've got a blue and a green and a purple colour, so might try that if there's well, there should be enough, I think. Anyway, that's it for tonight. I think I'm not going to start anything else. It's yeah, I'll try and catch you on Sunday, Fluffy Twiggler. Oh yeah, no, I understood it wasn't finished, but it's just what I thought at the time. It's looking good, and I was enjoying watching her do it yesterday, and that was yeah, I thought I got something wrong there. Yeah, so it was just a pity I had something else I needed to do, if not just tidy up the desk, as it was in a bit of a mess yesterday. But yeah, I've run out of pink rings now, so I'm not going to start anything else. We'll leave that till tomorrow night. So if there's anybody watching, according to Twitch there's a few of you, that isn't following, then I would appreciate you doing so. But if you don't want, that's okay. That's not a problem. If you'd like to be notified and don't trust Twitch, then you can follow me on Twitter if you like. The details will be on the end plate in a moment. They're also below the stream window in case you forget. But otherwise it's at Zaragonart. A tweet goes out when I go live. That's about the only tweets that go out, at least for the moment, and even in the future they're only going to be art related, so you're not going to get to know when I have my breakfast. Mainly because I don't eat it, but that's another point. If you'd just like to try and catch me tomorrow night, when I go live tomorrow night, will be around 8 PM UK time, 1900 hours GMT. Oh, about 2 hours ago was 8 o'clock roughly, give or take a bit. So that time tomorrow, and each night of the week. Thank you all for watching. It has been fun. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow when we have a go, maybe at a ring of rings. Sounds like that film. We'll see. Bye bye.